All right. So, um, I'm in Chapel, Nebraska, and I'm gonna tell you the story as best I can without freaking out. I will not be reading the comments. I don't care what's in there. I need to not get distracted. All of the evidence that's on these videos, you can see going all the way back to the very beginning how plastic is bugging me. Things like that. Obviously, if something like that distracts me, imagine what people screaming at each other in a drunken stupor or drug induced haze, or even just volatile people who are used to that kind of behavior, like that's normal everyday stuff. And it is. That's the worst part. It truly is. The way that the police, law enforcement, the FBI, the Secret Service, the media, the way these people, these professionals treated this situation resulted in a lot of innocent people being hurt and a lot of innocent people being dead. By calling me mentally ill, all of these situations where, hey, this is pretty fucking important and I am having a panic attack about it. Let's look what happened when I'm having panic attacks, all right? When I was having a panic attack over the shit with Natalie, was it unfounded? Obviously not. Look what happened. When I was having a panic attack at Clearview over the way that they were treating me, was that unfounded? No, they killed 2 people after that, doing exactly what it is that I told you they did to me. And you called me a liar. A lot of people say, why didn't you call this in? Why didn't you call in Natalie being suicidal? Well, you know what? When she had somebody blow her fucking head off, I didn't know she was suicidal. I knew she was suicidal in Virginia. That's when I went to rescue her. And when I found out, well, the day she got shot in the head, when I found out that she had disappeared, the first thing I did was try to help find her. To offer all of the money that I had to get her somewhere safe. Why? Because I knew about Ted Bollinger. I knew about Tim Beeson. I knew about Joey Moreno. I knew about Cash and all of these other people who she had been interacting with. All of these other people in her life, her Uncle Troy, her dad, her mom. I mean, oh my God, she was at such high risk. And that is important. You guys have your fucking thick skulls that because I am autistic, that I'm retarded, that I don't pick up social cues isn't the same as I don't understand what the fuck is going on around me. Most of these people who lied to me at the time, I was pretty sure they're lying to me. But I had to believe someone and I had to hope beyond hope because there was nobody else there for me. A lot of people claimed that they were there for me and said that they would be, didn't and weren't. This will probably be 20 or 30 videos long. This is my statement about all of this, and I'm going to tell you that this video right here is probably the only one where if there are children in the room, um, well, matter of fact, even though this is probably the kindest one out of all of it, I'm going to tell you if there are children in the room, you should probably put your headphones in. When I was having a panic attack about the way that I was treated by the Boulder Police Department, I have seen them do this hundreds of times before to other people. And as a child, I had to endure it. So yes, I knew exactly what to expect. It's not your excuses. All right. I knew what to expect from personal experience. A lot of personal experience. If you're a high functioning autistic person, yeah, when you live through that, you learn better than anyone else. You are slow to pick up on it, but once you've been through it, you know better than everyone. And there's a reason for that. It's because you have details. The problem is you get overwhelmed by the sheer quantity of details that you are picking up and nobody else seems to be noticing. How can you not see this? How can you be that blind? So I'm going to start off with my interactions on Pearl Street. And we'll cover a lot of topics. My story would start off when I was born. I'm not going to do that. This is mostly about Natalie and then what happened to me for trying to get Natalie actual justice. Most of these people claiming they wanted justice for Natalie. No, they didn't. They wanted someone to scapegoat. Hell, if they wanted justice for Natalie, they wouldn't have even gone after Joseph Michael Lopez. First thing, they would have gone after Ted Bollinger, then Tim Beeson, Joey Moreno, Justin Ward, the other boyfriend that Natalie had at the time. If they wanted justice, they would have gone after the police. Natalie's family and friends, my family and friends, myself and Natalie, none of us deserved this. This is a product of ineffective law enforcement, bureaucratic bullshit. All of this system is set up for rich people to make money and to prevent the poor from having resources because they're giving it to the rich. This is all having to go to the rich investors. This is all having to go to pay for all of these facilities and all of these projects. How are we supposed to defend ourselves when we have to spend thousands of dollars before we've even had a court date? That's not justice. They say, oh, you've got access to the phones. Yeah, but I have no money for the phones. They say the law says that these people can't do this. All right, well, good. Let's do something about it. But they do it anyway. Meanwhile, it's illegal, right? So why are they doing it? The things that I have panic attacks about, where I am treated like I'm mentally fucking retarded and fucking schizophrenic. These are things that I have gone in repeatedly, calmly, to try to explain, to try to show them, and no matter what, I get the same excuses. And they know that they can get away with giving me those excuses because I'm alone and because they can call me mentally ill. It's not easy. So I was homeless in Boulder for a few years, and then I went back to Chapel, Nebraska. When I moved from Montana to Boulder, Colorado, in, I want to say 2010, 2011, something like that. I don't know for sure. Probably 2009, I think it was. That was probably the year I made that walk from Bozeman, Montana to Boulder, Colorado. And that's when I got to meet a lot of people, including Alicia and her sister. Now, how did I meet them? Well, there was a lady there. Her name was Janine Barrett, and she was a little bit up there in age, and she had a son. Janine came back for her daughter's graduation back to the States and dropped her and her 17-year-old son off homeless in Boulder, Colorado. He went back to Hawaii without her, cleared out their bank account. She was stranded with a 17-year-old son, and her 17-year-old son was friends with Maddie Boa, and Maddie Boa was friends with Natalie and Alicia. I didn't even know their names. Whenever they sat next to me, I was annoyed because I knew what kind of trouble that was. I knew they didn't intend any harm by it, but they were doing harm just by sitting there. They were affecting public opinion. Public opinion is what we go to war over, what we kill people over, what we do or do not own slaves over. Public opinion is important. Greek law was extremely intelligent, far more intelligent than our law today. Why is that? I mean, they did a lot of fucked up stuff. Women not having any rights, that's pretty fucked up, right? I can agree with that. Didn't say it was perfect. Take the parts you want out of each of these societies and leave the parts you don't. You want to pick up parts of Roman society, pick up the good parts, but you need to leave the hanging people on crosses back in Rome. You got to leave the ritualistic rape and strangling in public. You got to leave that in ancient Rome as well. Yes, they raped people in the public forums. That was part of the spectacle of gladiatorial games as well. A really pretty slave would be often raped to death by a bull or a horse. You guys talk about donkey shows like it's funny. It's not. So, at first, they really stayed away from me, but they talked to me. I let them know that they really shouldn't be there. Every time I saw them, I let them know they shouldn't be there. It's nothing but trouble. They should not be there. They're too young. They need to go home. I tried to pound that into all of those kids' heads. Y'all need to go home. Most of those kids are former foster kids, or they're adopted. They don't know the right kind of love. A lot of them, they go down there to Pearl Street because they get positive attention from these homeless people. You know, at home, they're getting fucked by their dad. I didn't really get to know Natalie and Alicia, but because I passed out blankets in Boulder, Colorado, because I was sick of my friends dying, my praying wasn't doing anything about them freezing to death. Passing out blankets did. Every morning I would walk around and I would pick up those blankets. I'd go around to all the places where I knew the people slept and wake them up just before the cops usually showed up. That way they wouldn't get a 40 hours of community service for trespassing, 20 hours of community service for camping in city limits because of the blanket that I gave them. Almost $200 in costs for the camping ticket, as well as almost $400 in cost for the trespassing ticket. That's a lot to have on your shoulders. I guess I smoked all my cigarettes. Lucky me, I got these snipes. That's what the homeless people call them. So one morning I was running around doing my morning routine, being responsible. If you're going to give somebody contraband, try to make sure they don't get busted with it. And a blanket in Boulder, Colorado, in the middle of winter when it's fucking freezing cold, it's contraband. That's why Ben Harvey froze to death. He didn't want to spend 60 hours of slave labor because of the 13th Amendment. Oh, the opossum is back. I don't know if this will focus. I really hope it will. Oh, he ran out. Gosh. I knew I should have moved slower. So I saw Emery and Arturo, each one of them in a sleeping bag, one of them with Natalie and one of them with Alicia. I didn't even know their names at the time. I didn't know how old they were. I was certain they were too young to be down there. And they always had these little boys wanting to feed them attention. Natalie, I connected with immediately because I grew up with girls like her. She had cuts everywhere, all over the place. She was 13 years old when I met her. If she's cutting on herself, that's trouble. That means some real bad stuff. That means two things at once in most occasions. If you got a psych major, you can understand this. If you've lived through it, you can understand this. Shannon Alvarado talks about living through it. Quite a few of these people do, including Randy Hughes, Rand Ingersoll. And what is that? Cutting on yourself. What's that from? Well, statistically, not just statistically in numbers, which is also the case, but also statistically from what I have observed and lived through and listened to in all of my years in the system in groups, group after group after group. That's what you do. You sit and you listen to a bunch of people talk about their problems, about being molested by people, about being raped, about being beaten up. The system is a hard place. A lot of people say, well, at least you're not in Venezuela or somewhere like that. Well, it's probably true. But it's worse elsewhere. It's a terrible excuse not to make it better here. It's a terrible excuse to ignore our problems here because it could be worse. It could be worse. That's right. In Africa, it's very common for when there's two warring factions to go rape people and then slice up their mammaries and such, put them in tires and light them on fire. So we should ignore rape here because these girls aren't getting lit on fire, aren't having their parts chopped up. No, that's absolutely fucked up. No, rape is wrong. Just because they're not being murdered afterwards, and many of them are murdered afterwards here in the United States, by the way. But just also, I got this sneaky suspicion that Joseph Lopez raped Natalie before he killed her. I don't know. The whole DNA thing and how important that was for them in their case, and how many laws that they broke in order to try to feign an assault against a police officer so they could reobtain that information. It's because when I gave it to them freely and clearly, apparently they couldn't legally take a look at that because of my mental illness. So that would have allowed whoever it was that killed Natalie, assuming it was me, to get away with it because I handed it all over like that. So they coordinated with Boulder Police Department to threaten, harass, and intimidate me and ignore all crimes against me until I had a mental fucking breakdown. And that was the day that Waylon Lolatai came and assaulted me. What happened when I had a panic attack about Waylon Lolatai? I was afraid of him harming more victims. What'd he do? He victimized more people. How about Clearview? I was afraid of them harming more people the way they harmed me. And guess what? They killed 2 people. In all of these cases, these people in these positions of authority, of high authority, have exhibited, well, exact behaviors that I told you they were doing to begin with. The fact that I had to mimic those behaviors to get people to actually look because of the slander against me and the harm that continued, it continues to this day, by the way. You guys think that just because they found her killer, the people stopped. No, there was a lot more slander. See, that's the thing, is while you're accusing me of stalking her, no, absolutely not. Between when I left Virginia and when she died, every attempt to contact her, it wasn't just an attempt to contact her, it was an attempt to contact my friends and an attempt to contact the police. It always coincided assaults against me or me wanting to go see my loved ones without being assaulted in somewhere that I had already been assaulted. So you can tell a lot of that close to every day. No, not even close. See, here's the thing. Natalie used to message me almost every day. I used to message her almost every day. Both of us did it. We were friends. Now I'm going to tell you about Virginia. This is the part that Natalie writes about. You guys want to believe that it was a bunch of stuff that happened in Colorado after Virginia. No, none of that happened in Colorado. It all happened in Virginia. The parts that they try to use to pretend that I stalked them, it's all stuff that happened in Virginia. While if you guys look at the messages between Natalie and I the whole time I was in Virginia, Alicia and I, the whole time I was in Virginia, that proves that I was telling the truth and am telling the truth. It paints a completely different story from the monster they wanted to portray me as. You want to get angry like I am a terrible fucking person and a stalker and a rapist and a child molester and a murderer because when people assault me over your lies, I get a hold of you and say, hey, people are doing this shit. Get them to fucking stop. And a decent person would have done that. So, anyway, I guess I should do it along the proper timeline, right? All right. Well, I meet Natalie and Alicia. I've probably been on Pearl Street a few years by this point. I think it was, I want to say 2013, 2012, something like that. I don't know. I do know that every year that I was homeless, I had several dozen of my friends die, freeze to death. And I had a lot more important things to worry about than the trouble that those kids were bringing. I stayed in Starbucks so that if a bunch of kids wanted to come all up in my area, there's cameras. They want to come up in there starting trouble, I have a safe place to go. And that was the last safe place that I had to go before this here trailer. There have been some places that are relatively safe. Hmm. So when I catch those two underage girls with those two males, now first of all, mind you, the police don't give a fuck about the homeless. If you try to make a report as a homeless person, they just don't give a fucking shit. Even if they do take your report, they're not going to investigate the goddamn thing. They don't care about you. You're a fucking homeless person. They go, oh, well, he's not paying taxes. Are you sure about that? I had a job nearly the entire time I was homeless. And then I'd get off work. I still don't have enough to get my own place. So I get to listen to people tell me about, first of all, how I need to do it all on my own. I'm earning, at most $1,400 a month and rent in Boulder, Colorado. All the places that I can find are $2,200 to $2,400 a month. You got to move in with a roommate, and most roommates are like, oh, well, we're stocked up by the time you call them. Or they come down and meet you. They realize that you're homeless. They're like, I'm gonna backtrack. Fuck, my money's good. It's green fucking money. It's fucking certified, serial coded, and fucking everything. It's real American cash. It is true legal tender. You can take it. No, there's them assumptions about homeless people. We must all be junkies or child molesters or fucking shit like that. And then you're constantly paying off fines for crimes that you didn't commit or crimes that you didn't have a choice in whether or not you committed it because you're fucking homeless. Now you say, oh, well, you do have a choice. You have a choice in whether or not you break the law. That's right. Using that blanket is against the law. You have two choices at that point. Are you going to freeze to death or are you going to work 60 hours of community service and work whatever it takes to get $600 for the other half of what they want? Yeah, you might accidentally freeze to death. I mean, that's 3 weeks out of a month that you're working for them to pay them that. That leaves you 1 week to earn what you need to live on. And that's because you got busted once with a blanket. Once. How many nights in Boulder, Colorado in a month during the winter does it get cold enough for you to freeze to death? How many? How's 122 beds when 70 something of them are for transitional housing? How are those 122 beds going to help out the almost 4,000 people who are homeless in Boulder County? I want to know that. So you guys aren't listening to me when I'm telling you these resources that you believe are magic and everywhere. They don't fucking exist. A lot of them, it's just smoke and mirrors. They say you go to this therapist and they'll help you. They'll help you get an honest day in court. They'll help you set all this up. Not without housing and not without understanding and listening. You need to stop and listen. Most of these places, all they were interested in was me filling out the sliding fee scale. That's what they were interested in. That's all they wanted. Do you know why? Because you guys, the American people, pick up the tab. I went there for help. All they want is your money. Meanwhile, it never occurs to them, no matter how many times I explain it to them, I don't have any money coming in. I cannot afford in this vehicle to continue to drive back and forth between somewhere that I'm safe to sleep without getting harassed by the police, almost, as you'll see, is the case at Walmart. That's almost a safe place to sleep. And then I have to drive back to your meetings and appointments where you don't look at any of the evidence. You just sit there and write out the clock. Or you want to help me in ways that aren't going to help, that I've already jumped through. And you're so busy trying to help me how you think that it's supposed to work that you're completely missing out on someone who's gone through this experience. You're brand new and fresh at this. The stuff that was needed to get my disability money back. I mean, I didn't have that at Tabby's. I didn't have that at all. I didn't get any of that until what? Until I got an autism advocate. Where are the 2 times since I left Virginia where somebody actually helped me, where someone was actually useful? One of them was Tamara, whose son is autistic. She helped me to get all this set up the first time because she understood. And then the autism advocate that I have now, because she understands. And there's a lot of stuff that she still doesn't, but she tries. These are the 2 people who have helped me the most. Shannon Alvarado claimed that she understood autism, and I got there and I'm like, oh my God, she doesn't. She truly doesn't. She's an alcoholic. She gets drunk at 6 o'clock and starts screaming real loud. When does her daughter have the most problems? As soon as Shannon starts getting drunk. Shannon screams a lot when she's drunk, and she's drunk every night. Anyway, a few years passed, and it finally got to the point where I got injured. Now, I hadn't seen Natalie and Alicia for a few years because when I told them to go home when they were about 14. I didn't see them again after that for a few years. Then they showed back up, Natalie and Alicia, and they're with 2 fellers who are obviously in their 20s, late 20s, at least for one of them. And, they're arm in arm in these fellas. And they saw me, and they came and run up and give me a hug. Oh, that's great, cool, And then they gave me their, names all written down on a piece of paper, told me to fucking hit them up on Facebook. So I hit them up on Facebook, sent them one message, and fucking forgot about them, At that point, it'd been enough years, and with the dudes they were with, yeah, they were probably 18 or older. It turned out they were only 17. That was the only message that was sent in that whole time. 8 months later, Natalie finally returned the message. Now, when something has been buried for 8 months like that, the only way that you're going to find that is by typing up the person's name to look them up, which means that Natalie did type up my name and look me up to specifically message me. And look at our messages between each other. You can see all of that all the way through. That the stories that I've been telling you are true. Same thing with Alicia. Same thing with Maddie. Same thing with Mahalia Jean-Pierre. Same thing with Joanna Taylor Smith. I mean, these stories are all fucking true. And I post up the evidence for you. And then people who are new to this friggin' channel, they're like, oh, dude, where's the evidence? You keep saying there's evidence. Show me the evidence. Dude, this is probably video 2000. Who knows? There's a lot of evidence that I've already posted. You want me to go through and spend another 12 hours trying to compile all of this stuff just because you asked me on a whim and you want it right fucking now? Bitch, you spend 12 hours to go through all of the stuff that I have already gone through. Some of it repeatedly. There's some stuff in there, like my hospital paperwork from Chesapeake, Virginia. That's in at least 4 of my videos. The actual document, me showing it and what it says. So if you go by and I've hurt my back, you know, and I can't really function well. I hurt my back on my birthday in 2015. The guy that I was letting stay out there, or at least having stuff out there, he was staying out there when he wasn't supposed to, lights on, playing video games, ghetto blasting it. Fucking 4 o'clock in the morning. He got us kicked out. So my birthday, I injured my back moving everything out of my friggin' shop and into a storage facility. And when I hurt my back moving that big heavy gun lathe, that was pretty much the end of it for me. Couldn't take care of myself after that. Cops wouldn't leave me alone. Kept on harassing me. Guess what? I love this part. So I got tired of it. None of my friends were coming by, and I had a bunch of schizophrenic people to talk to every day, and that was about it. A woman named Devin had a friggin', she's a pretty white girl with fucking blue eyes. Yeah, fucking, they got their own fucking false reality in their head about how things are. No, it's not fucking like that. Just because you make bad assumptions doesn't mean that it's my fault and that I should be punished. But that's not the way that it works. Pretty looks means more than the truth. That's the America we really live in. That's actually the power of Greek democracy. It's based on human nature, your bias, your beliefs, your assumptions. Democratia. It means people power. If the masses are educated, then they can make the right choices. Here in America, we do not educate the masses in what the hell's going on. You believe whatever the news tells you, and that's as far as it gets. That's how the cops were able to play me the way that they did. They abused the news media. But the news media didn't care to look at my side, did they? I've seen a lot of evidence to a lot of people who said that they were going to try to get the truth out there before. Those people never got around to it, ever. The fact that they never got around to it is the reason that I ultimately chose to break the law. All of the threats, all of the harassment, all of the assaults, all of the false charges, all of the bullying, all of the threats against my loved ones, all of the intimidation, all of that, all of the head games by the Bollinger family, the ones who were pretending they wanted to help, and the ones who were outright hostile, having their friends do their dirty work. So I'm having to defend myself against thousands of people, and the ones who are telling me they're going to help me, they're not defending me. They're giving me pretty words in Messenger. I suppose we should get to the part where I go to Virginia, right? Well, I went into Starbucks. I got 37 Vicodin from DTA Wow. and I was on my way to the bathroom to eat them. And in my life, well, that's when Natalie Bollinger came in my life again. So I'm going to start a new video and tell that story.